I knew something was wrong the moment I stepped onto my brother's porch. Before I could even knock, my sister-in-law Vanessa swung the door open and blocked the entrance with her entire body, eyes sharp, jaw clenched like she'd been waiting to attack. "Get out," she snapped, her voice slicing through the holiday chatter behind her. "You don't belong here, Hazel." For a moment, I just stood there, stunned, holding the homemade pie I'd spent the whole morning baking. Inside, my family, my own flesh and blood, refused to look at me. Some turned away. Others whispered. It was like watching the door to my childhood slam shut in real time. Heat rushed to my face. My grip tightened. I almost walked away. I almost let them win. But then a chair scraped loudly inside. Someone stood up. A commanding voice thundered through the dining room. "Partner, wait, I'm with you." Everything and everyone went silent. I should have realized something felt off. Ethan hadn't replied to my last 2 messages. Mom only sent a thumbs-up emoji when I asked what time dinner started. And Vanessa. Well, Vanessa never answered me unless it benefited her. But it was the holidays. I wanted to believe family still meant something. So I baked a pie, my mom's old recipe, the one with extra nutmeg, and drove across town, rehearsing small talk in my head. I even dressed up a little, hoping to look presentable, whatever that meant for people who judged everything I did. When I reached the door, the laughter inside stopped instantly. That should have been my first warning. I knocked lightly. No answer. I knocked again. Suddenly, the door yanked open, and Vanessa filled the frame like a wall made of hostility and expensive perfume. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. I blinked. It's holiday dinner?" She folded her arms. "We already have enough people. Important people. You weren't supposed to come." I felt something cold crawl up my spine. "I was invited," I insisted. "Ethan told me to be here." Her lips curled into a smirk. Well, he was wrong. She reached out and tapped the pie tin with one manicured nail. "And what is this? You brought homemade food?" She laughed sharply. "Hazel, this isn't one of your struggling artist potlucks." Humiliation prickled across my skin. "Vanessa," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I'm not here to impress anyone. It's family dinner." "Family?" She scoffed. "Sweetheart, no one in this house has time to babysit your sad little life. Not today." I swallowed hard. "Let me talk to Ethan." "He's busy," she snapped. "Everyone's busy. We're trying to look like a successful, respectable family tonight." Her eyes ran over me, my simple dress, my old coat, the pie I'd made myself. "And you," she added, "don't fit the aesthetic." The words hit harder than they should have. Behind her, through the gap in the doorway, I saw silhouettes at the dining table. My mother, my uncle, even cousin Melanie. No one moved. No one called out my name. They all pretended they didn't see me. Like I was a stranger. Like I was the one ruining the evening just by breathing. My throat tightened. "Okay," I whispered. "Fine. If you don't want me here, I'll leave." I stepped back, heat burning behind my eyes. Vanessa exhaled in relief, actually relieved to see me give up. "Good," she said. "Now turn around and—" But she never finished that sentence. Because a chair scraped loudly inside. Footsteps approached. Someone tall stood behind her, and his deep, commanding voice cut through the room like lightning. "Why is Hazel at the door?" Vanessa froze, and so did I. Vanessa spun around so fast her heels scraped the floor. Standing behind her was a tall man in a charcoal gray suit, broad-shouldered, silver-haired, unmistakably confident. Grant Ellison, the CEO of Ellison Innovations, my brother's boss, Vanessa's boss. The last person she expected to witness her power trip. He looked from her to me, confusion sharpening into concern. "Hazel?" he said. "Why are you outside?" Vanessa stiffened. "Mr. Ellison." She was just leaving. Grant held up a hand. Vanessa instantly shut her mouth. Then his eyes met mine. "Hazel Carter, what on earth are you doing on the porch?" I opened my mouth, but only air came out. Humiliation tightened around my throat. Vanessa tried again. "She came uninvited." Grant raised an eyebrow. "Uninvited? Hazel?" I felt a tremor of embarrassment run through me. "Ethan told me to come, but I guess plans changed." Grant's jaw tensed. He stepped past Vanessa, placing himself firmly between us as he opened the door wide for me. "Hazel, come inside," he said firmly. "You're with me." Those words hit the room like a thunderclap. Every head at the table turned. Ethan coughed, choking on his own shock. My mother's hand flew to her chest. Guests straightened in their seats, whispering rapidly. Vanessa sputtered beside him. "Mr. Ellison, this is a private—" "No," he cut her off sharply. "This is a professional event. And Hazel is one of the most important professionals I've ever worked with." My heart stopped. "What?" Ethan blurted. "Hazel, you?" Grant looked over his shoulder. "Ethan, did you seriously never tell them?" "Tell us what?" my uncle demanded, squinting. Grant turned fully to the table. "Hazel Carter co-founded one of the earliest labs in our company. She was the backbone of our first research division. Half of Ellison Innovations exists because of her work." The room fell dead silent. Vanessa's face drained of every remaining drop of color. "That's impossible," she whispered. She's unemployed." Grant's eyes sharpened. "She's taking a break. That's not the same as being irrelevant." Heat flushed my cheeks. I hadn't expected him to say any of this, not in front of everyone, and definitely not with that much conviction. Vanessa stammered. "But how was I supposed to know? Hazel never looked successful." Grant stared at her like she'd spoken another language. "Success doesn't always scream," he said softly. "Sometimes it walks quietly, patiently, until someone tries to shove it out the door." He turned back to me. "Hazel, sit next to me. I want you at my end of the table." I hesitated for a heartbeat. Then I stepped inside. The warmth of the dining room washed over me, not comforting but electrifying. I wasn't invisible anymore. Not tonight. Not with Grant at my side. Vanessa, meanwhile, stood frozen at the doorway, just beginning to realize the consequences of pushing out the wrong woman. As I stepped fully into the dining room, the warmth of the lights hit me, but not the warmth of family. No, what hit me instead were the stares. Shocked, guilty, curious, ashamed. Every emotion except the one I had hoped for, recognition. Grant pulled out a chair for me beside him, the seat usually reserved for Ethan. Vanessa watched with her jaw hanging open, like she couldn't decide if she should scream or faint. I placed my pie gently on the table. Nobody touched it. Grant poured me a glass of sparkling water. "You okay?" he asked quietly. I nodded, but the truth was, I wasn't sure. My mother finally cleared her throat, hands trembling slightly. "Hazel, sweetheart, why didn't you tell us you did all that? With Grant? With the company?" I met her eyes that had always looked past me. "Because," I said softly, "every time I tried to share something, you were already praising Ethan's promotions or Vanessa's new car or Jenna's engagement. There was never room for my voice." Ethan stared at his plate, shame creeping up his neck. "Hazel, I didn't know," he whispered. I sighed. "You never asked." Grant looked around the table, unimpressed with all of them. "You should know," he said calmly, "that Hazel saved our first product launch. She's the reason we have an AI division today." My uncle stammered. We thought she just had a hobby. Computers? Or something." My lips twisted slightly. "A hobby?" "I worked 18-hour days. I was the one keeping the early labs running while you all assumed I was doing nothing with my life." My mother pressed a napkin to her eyes. "Hazel, we're so sorry." Haspo. In the Redding and Self thing despair. Then Vanessa finally spoke, her voice high and brittle. "Oh please," she snapped. "You're all acting like Hazel's some sort of genius. If she was that important, why is she unemployed right now?" The table went still. Grant set his glass down with a subtle clink that sounded like a warning shot. "Because Hazel chose to walk away," he said. "Burnout is real, and she deserved rest." Vanessa scoffed. "Rest? While the rest of us work? Must be nice." I felt something inside me break open. "Vanessa," I said, my voice cutting through the space, "you don't get to talk about hard work when all you've ever done is tear people down." Her face flushed red. "That's not true. You laughed at my car," I continued. "You mocked my clothes. You joked about my salary. Every holiday you found a new way to make me feel small." Vanessa's eyes darted around the table. "And no, I was just teasing." "That wasn't teasing," Ethan muttered, surprising everyone, especially her. "You were always cruel." Vanessa's mouth opened in disbelief. "Ethan," but he didn't look at her. He looked at me. "I should have defended you," he said quietly. "You're my sister, and I failed you." The air grew thick with tension, Apology, regret, and all the years of silence between us. For the first time ever, they were finally seeing me. But the truth was, an apology wasn't going to fix everything. Not tonight. Not after what they'd done. Grant leaned toward me and whispered, "You don't owe them forgiveness. Not yet." And I realized then, this dinner was far from over. Vanessa sat rigidly, like she was bracing against an earthquake, one she caused but couldn't control. Her cheeks were flushed red, her eyes darting across the table as she scrambled for a way to recover her dignity. Finally, she let out a brittle laugh. "Okay, everyone needs to calm down," she said, waving a shaky hand. "This whole thing is being blown out of proportion." Hazel misunderstood. "I wasn't trying to be cruel." Grant arched a brow. "No?" he asked quietly. "Because from where I stood, you were blocking the door and yelling at her." Vanessa's lips twitched. "That was just frustration." "Frustration," he repeated. "Interesting word choice." Ethan rubbed his temples. "Vanessa, stop digging." But she didn't. She couldn't. She was drowning, and instead of swimming, she thrashed harder. "Mr. Ellison," she rushed on, "you have to understand we had guests. Important guests. Hazel showing up in—" She gestured vaguely toward me. "That outfit, with that pie, looking like she just rolled out of a struggling apartment. It wasn't exactly appropriate." The table went still. My mother gasped softly. My uncle muttered, "Good Lord." Even Cousin Melanie looked uncomfortable. Grant leaned forward, elbows on the table, voice silky and dangerous. "And what exactly," he asked, "is inappropriate about Hazel?" Vanessa swallowed. "I mean, she's not really presentable for professional company." A sharp inhale swept around the table. Grant's expression hardened into steel. "Vanessa, let me explain something clearly. Hazel Carter is more capable, more intelligent, and more valuable than half the executives in this city, including some sitting in this room." "Come in." Her mouth dropped open. I didn't mean she wasn't capable, but you implied she wasn't worth respect." Grant's voice cut like ice. "And I don't tolerate that behavior from anyone on my staff." Vanessa paled instantly. Wait, I'm on your staff? For now?" Grant said. Ethan stiffened beside her. "Grant?" "No," Grant said sharply. "She needs to hear this." Vanessa's breath hitched. "What are you saying?" Grant folded his fingers, gaze unwavering. "I've been receiving complaints from your department for months. Your team claims you micromanage, take credit for others' work, and deflect blame when something goes wrong." My heart kicked. I hadn't known about any of this. Vanessa shook her head violently. "No, that's all lies. None of that is true." Grant tilted his head slightly. "We'll find out." The internal audit started this morning. The color drained from her face. Ethan stared at her like he didn't recognize the woman beside him. "You never told me about any complaints," he whispered. "That's because they're wrong," Vanessa cried. "They're jealous. They're trying to sabotage me." Grant merely sighed. "Funny. That's what people say when their behavior finally catches up to them." Vanessa looked around the table, desperate for support. No one spoke. Not a single person. She was alone. For the first time. And she knew it. The irony wasn't lost on me. She wanted me to feel small, invisible, ashamed. Now she was the one shrinking in her chair, trembling in the silence she created. And dinner was only just beginning. Grant's announcement hit the dining room like a bomb. Vanessa stared at him, lips trembling, eyes wide with the kind of fear she usually reserved for gossip about other people's downfall. Except this time she was the downfall. "H! How dare you investigate me without telling me?" she snapped, voice cracking under the weight of panic. Grant didn't blink. "When I receive 3 separate reports about a manager abusing her team, I don't need your permission." Vanessa's voice pitched higher. "My team is lying. They always want shortcuts, and when I push them to work, they twist everything." "Enough," Grant said sharply. His tone sliced through her excuses, leaving her stunned and speechless. My mother whispered, "Good heavens." But I couldn't look away. Every nerve in my body felt stretched thin, like a wire ready to snap. Vanessa turned to Ethan, clutching his arm. "Ethan, tell him. Tell him I'm not a bad manager." But Ethan slowly pulled his arm away. He didn't look angry. He looked lost. "Vanessa," he said quietly. "I don't even know what to say." Her face crumpled. You're supposed to defend me. He shook his head. Tonight, I don't think I can. Vanessa's breath hitched. She looked at me like somehow I was the cause of her world collapsing. This is your fault, she hissed. You came here to ruin everything. My chair scraped as I stood. Don't you dare blame me, I said, voice trembling with fury. I knocked on a door. That's all I did. You're the one who humiliated me in front of the whole room. Vanessa stepped forward, eyes blazing. You embarrassed yourself. I didn't ask you to walk in here looking like someone who lost everything. I felt something hot burn behind my eyes. Grant slammed his palm against the table. Stop talking. The room froze. Every fork stilled, every breath held. But Grant wasn't looking at Vanessa anymore. He was looking at me. His eyes softened, anger melting into something else, something like pain. Hazel, he said quietly, you shouldn't have had to stand outside that door. You shouldn't have been treated like this by the people who should love you first. My chest tightened. Hearing him say it made the truth feel sharper. I forced a shaky breath. You know what hurts the most? I said. It's not Vanessa yelling at me. It's not the insults. It's walking in and seeing my own mother, look away like she didn't know me. Mom flinched. Tears welled in her eyes. Hazel, I didn't know what was happening. You didn't want to know, I said. You never do. Her lips quivered. Ethan stood slowly. Haze, I'm sorry. I should have said something. I should have stopped her. I turned to him. Why didn't you? He opened his mouth, but the answer wasn't there. It never had been. Vanessa, shaking with anger and embarrassment, pointed a trembling finger at me. You're acting like the victim. I am the victim, I snapped. You told me I wasn't good enough to sit at my own family's table. That's because you make us look bad, she screamed. The entire table sucked in a breath. Grant stood so abruptly his chair nearly tipped. Vanessa, he said in a low, lethal tone. You just gave me exactly the confirmation I needed. She blinked. What? You don't just mistreat your coworkers. You mistreat your own family. And you think that's leadership? Grant stepped forward. You're suspended, effective immediately. And it was of you at it was way. And is not that. She stumbled back. No, you can't. I worked so hard. I've been loyal. Loyal? Grant spat. You can't even stand beside your own sister-in-law. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Ethan, do something. But Ethan only whispered, I don't even recognize you tonight. Vanessa gasped, betrayed. Her entire world had tilted and she hadn't even realized she was the one who pushed it. Suddenly she pointed at me again, shaking violently. You ruined my marriage, my job, my reputation. I hope you're happy. My voice dropped to a razor's edge. No, Vanessa. You ruined all of that the moment you decided I was beneath you. The room fell silent again. Grant turned to me. His voice softened. Hazel, we don't have to stay here. But I raised a hand gently. No, I'm finishing this. Everyone watched me finally, fully, without looking away. Tonight, I said, you all showed me exactly where I stand in this family. Not because of who I am, but because of what you assumed I wasn't. I turned toward the door. I won't be begging for a seat at a table that treats me like I'm disposable. Vanessa choked out a sob. Ethan sank into his chair. Mom wept silently. Grant walked beside me. And as we stepped out of the dining room, I knew something with absolute clarity. They had pushed me out. But this time, I wasn't the one losing anything. The cold night air hit me like a wave the moment we stepped outside. The door closed behind us with a soft, final click. Nothing dramatic, yet somehow it felt louder than every scream inside that house. Grant walked beside me in silence for a moment, letting the tension bleed out of the air. He finally spoke gently. Hazel, breathe. I didn't even realize I'd been holding my breath until I exhaled shakily, my shoulders collapsing with exhaustion. I didn't want it to go that far, I murmured. Grant looked at me with quiet certainty. It didn't go too far. It went exactly as far as they pushed it. I wrapped my arms around myself. The holiday lights on the porch flickered behind us, fake warmth, fake cheer, fake unity. Do you think I was too harsh? I asked. He shook his head immediately. No, I think you were finally honest. And honestly, they needed to hear it. I gave a small laugh. Weak but real. They're probably inside rewriting family history right now. Grant smirked. Good. Maybe this version will include you. We walked toward the driveway where his sleek black SUV sat. My old, dented sedan looked painfully out of place next to it. "You're shaking," he said softly. "Hazel, look at me." I did. "You were brave tonight." I scoffed. "I was a wreck." "No," he said firmly, stepping closer. "You were a woman who finally stopped letting people treat her like she's invisible." His voice was warm, but there was something else in it too. Respect. Recognition. A quiet protectiveness that made my chest ache. I swallowed hard. "Grant, why do you care so much?" He hesitated, as if choosing his words carefully. "Because you matter," he said simply. "To me, to the company, to the work we built, to more people than you realize." He opened the passenger door for me. "Come on, you shouldn't go home alone with this kind of emotional weight." "We're just leaving?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "And tomorrow, you don't have to deal with them unless you choose to." I slid into the seat, the warmth of the car wrapping around me like a blanket I didn't know I needed. As Grant walked around to the driver's side, I whispered to myself, "I didn't lose anything tonight, did I?" When he settled in beside me, he answered without hesitation. "No, Hazel. Tonight, they lost you." I leaned my head back, letting the truth sink into my bones. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel invisible. I didn't feel powerless. I felt free. My phone began buzzing before the sun even rose the next morning. At first, I ignored it rolling onto my side, pulling the blanket over my head, hoping the world would give me one quiet hour. But it kept buzzing, and buzzing, and buzzing. When I finally picked it up, the screen was filled with missed calls. Ethan, 12 missed calls. Mom, 7 missed calls. Unknown, number 3 missed calls. Probably Vanessa's meltdown on a burner phone. I tossed the phone aside, but it buzzed again with a new message from Ethan. "Hazel, please. I need to talk. Vanessa won't be there. Just me. I need to fix this." Fix this? That phrase sat on my chest like a stone. After an hour of staring at my coffee, I finally texted back. 1 hour. Corner cafe. No drama. When I arrived, Ethan was already there, slumped in a chair by the window, looking like he hadn't slept in days. As I approached, he stood so quickly he nearly knocked over his cup. "Hayes," he breathed. "Thank you for coming." I sat across from him. He looked smaller somehow, like the weight of everything had finally crushed whatever pride he'd been clinging to. He rubbed his hands together nervously. "I owe you the biggest apology of my life." Silence pressed between us, heavy and overdue. "Hazel," he continued, voice cracking. "I let her treat you horribly. I let my own wife bully my sister because I didn't want to cause conflict. I thought keeping the peace meant staying silent." I stared at him. "Ethan, your silence was the conflict." He winced. "I know. I should have stood up for you last night. I should have stood up for you every time Vanessa belittled you. I failed you as a brother." He swallowed hard. "Can you forgive me?" I leaned back, letting his words sink in. Forgiveness wasn't cheap. Forgiveness wasn't instant. Forgiveness had to be earned. "I don't know yet," I said honestly. "But I'm willing to see if we can rebuild." His eyes filled with relief. "I'll do whatever it takes," he whispered. "Vanessa and we're not in a good place. Seeing the way she treated you, seeing myself do nothing, something broke inside me. Part of me wanted to pity him. Part of me wanted to scream. Instead, I chose honesty. "Ethan, the Hazel you grew up with would have accepted any apology." I exhaled. "But I'm not her anymore." He nodded slowly. "You're stronger now," he said. "And I'm proud of you." For the first time in years, he said something that felt real. We talked for nearly an hour about boundaries, respect, the years of small cuts that built up into a wound neither of us named until now. And when I walked out of the cafe, I didn't feel healed, but I did feel lighter. Because rebuilding didn't start with forgiveness. It started with truth. A week passed. A week of silence from Vanessa. A week of cautious, steady messages from Ethan. A week of me finally remembering what it felt like to breathe. I had fallen into a rhythm: quiet mornings with coffee, afternoons spent updating old portfolios, evenings where I actually allowed myself to rest without guilt. But everything changed on Friday morning. Grant texted me one sentence. "Your office is ready." My heart fluttered. I drove to Ellison Innovations, nerves buzzing in my fingertips. The building's glass facade reflected the morning sun, almost blinding, like it was daring me to step into a new version of myself. When I walked in, employees greeted me with warm smiles, not the dismissive glances I'd grown used to over the years. "Welcome back, Hazel. So glad you're here again. We've heard incredible things about your early work." For once, it didn't feel like flattery. It felt like recognition. Grant met me outside a corner office, sleek glass walls, new equipment, and a plaque on the door. "Hazel Carter, Director of Innovation." I blinked, stunned. "Grant, this is exactly what you deserve," he finished for me. "Exactly what you earned a long time ago." He stepped inside with me, hands in his pockets. "I didn't bring you back out of pity or sentiment," he said. "I brought you back because this company needs your mind, and I need someone I trust leading our next project." The weight of his words settled on me, gentle, grounding, empowering. "I'll do my best," I whispered. "I know," he replied. "That's why you're here." That evening, as I stood by the office window overlooking the city, my phone buzzed. A message from Ethan. "Hazel, I'm starting therapy, and I filed for separation. I'm done protecting someone who destroys people. Thank you for showing me the truth even when it hurt." I read the message twice, allowing myself to feel both sadness and relief. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't magically fixed. But it was something real. Grant knocked lightly before entering my office again. "Ready to head out?" he asked. I looked at the glowing city skyline, the plaque with my name, the future waiting just beyond the glass. I smiled. "Yeah," I said. "I'm ready." As we walked out together, I realized something. The girl who once stood on a doorstep, shaking, invisible, unwanted, she was gone, and in her place stood a woman who reclaimed her worth, one who refused to be pushed out again.